Hi there, Sandra here from Createinspain. Now today I'm using my iPad in the first of a few tutorials that I'm going to do for people who want to use Procreate for various craft type purposes. Now whether you want to use it for actual drawing, whether you want to use it for things for your cutting machine because it's very useful for that, I'm going to be doing some very simple tutorials. So if you're an expert in Procreate already or you're very familiar with Procreate, then these tutorials are probably not for you. I'm going to be taking it slowly and hopefully you'll be able to follow along on your own iPad if that's what you want to do. So I have Procreate loaded up, and if you tap on it when you open it on your iPad, you will come up with some kind of screen. You won't have all these things on it because obviously I've been using mine, and you will get a screen which basically has a plus button on the right hand side in order to add some projects. Now if you want to use it this way around, landscape, you can. If you want to use it the other way around, portrait, you can. But to get it to actually swap from one to the other, that is an iPad function. And what you do on your iPad, if you're not familiar, is you drag down, there we go, from the top right corner, and you have this lock symbol. And if it's got a red ring around it, then it's locked. Mine isn't. But if it's locked, you might want to unlock it if you need to change the way that your iPad is working. Or if you want to make sure that you don't turn it around by accident, then you want to lock it. The choice is yours, but I'm just going to tap on the screen, go back to what I was doing, and there we are. It rotates back because it's freely available to do that at the moment. So the first thing you're going to need to do in Procreate is, like every other drawing app, you're going to need to create the piece of paper, basically, that you're working on. Now in Procreate you have some pre-made sizes already, and if you tap on the plus icon, those will come up. Now mine are going to be different because I've got sizes on here that I've put on here, not the ones which were originally with Procreate. But you can choose whatever size you want. Now you'll notice, if you look at here, I've got A4 300, I have A4P 600, a thumbnail, and A4 600 there. Now the A4 is a standard page size for us in Europe. And if I want to print anything off, that's the size I'm printing, unless I want to do an A5, in which case I simply halve it again. If we go to the plus button, and you can just choose to have screen size if you want, but you can add whatever size you like. So I'll click on plus, and you come up with the dimensions. Now at the moment, I've got no width in there at all. The height is automatically set to 640, but I can set it to whatever I want. And I can set it either to millimeters, centimeters, inches, or pixels. Now, if I set it to centimeters and I put in a width of 29.0, you can see it comes up there. The height of 640 centimeters is not going to happen. I go on to next, and I want 21.0. Now that will give me A4. Now you notice that it has changed this very slightly, and that's simply the program itself. It gives you the nearest thing that it can do for that particular measurement. Now if I want to change the DPI, at the moment I've got it set at 600, I will go to next, and I can put in, I don't know, 300 DPI. Or I could put in something entirely different. I could just put in 700 DPI. And you see when I do that, the maximum number of layers changes. At 700 DPI, I can only have 7 layers. If I put in, by backspacing, 300 dpi, I can get 59 layers. Now in most cases, unless I'm doing actual artwork, the number of layers that I'm adding really doesn't make any great difference because I'm not using them all. But it's something that you need to be aware of if you're experimenting and if you're doing lots and lots and lots and lots of layers and suddenly things don't add anymore. That'll be why. So I'm going to cancel this because I don't actually need to make myself another surface. You can open it up, or if you want to, what you can do is you can select, tap on it, and you can duplicate it. That means I'm keeping the format that I want. I'm just opening up another one. Tap on the cross, and then I can just tap on that to open it up, and there we are. If I want to make it appear smaller on my screen, 2 fingers, shrink, 2 fingers, expand, like that. Much the same as you are probably used to if you have an iPad for other reasons. Now bear in mind that this will need to either be put on your ScanNCut mat and scanned and cut, or you will have to export it to a different program in order to put cut lines around it. This is not vector producing. It doesn't produce SVGs. Export everything if you need to export it as a PNG and things will be fine. This is what I want. I have one set up here which I've labelled as brush base, and this just needs to be a square. It could be 300 dpi, it could be 600 dpi. Generally, the higher the dpi, the better the quality of the print you're going to produce. So if you are going to be printing something out, then you want the higher numbers. If it's just on a screen, then you're not quite so worried. Now, if I want to check the dimensions of my piece, I can go to the wrench at the top left here, and I can get canvas information, which is right down the bottom, and it's going to tell me everything that I need to know about my canvas. And this one says 600 dpi, which is great for the purpose that I want to use it. And I also already know that it's approximately 10 by 10 centimeters. It is black, and there is a very, very good reason for that, because I'm going to be drawing in white. And there's a very good reason for that that will become obvious. Just take my word for it. I will explain later, don't worry. So I have white up here for my color, and if I tap on it, I can change it to lots of different colors. There's a color disc, there's classics, there's harmony, there's value ones where you can alter the numbers and whatever. Okay, and then you have your palettes back, and you can add to those palettes if you want. There are basic palettes in there already, but I just want white, so I'm tapping on white. Now, what brush have I got selected? When you open up Procreate, there are quite a few different brushes already selected, and they're in different categories. Now I'm going to go to my favorites, and I'm going to choose Monoline 1. This is just a basic line drawing pen. It's not got any effects on it, it's just a straightforward pen. So the next thing I want to do is to draw something, and I could draw anything at all. So maybe I draw a leaf like that. I just want to make sure that is closed up. There we go. Make sure it's closed. Now if I want to fill that in, I just tap on my colour and I drag it, boop, and it'll fill it in. If I want to undo what I've done, there's a little back arrow here, and tap that, and it all goes away again. Now up here, this is the layers panel, and you can see that I've set my background colour to black. Now if I wanted to change that, tap on it, and I can choose from the colour wheel, I can choose from a palette or whatever. Okay, that's how you change it. If I go back to my layers, this highlighted blue layer is the layer that I have drawn, and you can see the leaf in white on there. If I don't want to see what I've drawn on that particular layer, I just tap on this square and it goes into the background, disappears from sight, but it's still there. Tap on it and it comes back up. If I swipe to the left, I can choose to lock that layer, to copy it and paste it, basically to duplicate it, or to clear it. And if I swipe white, I get my layer tab back. So for the time being, I want to do a fill with that. But now I want to go back to my drawing tool, my pen, my brush, whatever you like to call it. But I want to make this black now. So I tap on the black and I'm going to draw a line like so. And I'm just going to put in some very scrappy veins. Okay, this is just for demonstration purposes. Now, what if I wanted to cut out an awful lot of those on something like an A4 paper, but I didn't want them all the same size or in all the same direction? Maybe I just wanted to print a whole page of them, but have them randomly scattered around the page. Well, this is where the brush making tool in Procreate is very, very useful. And it is so simple to use. But this is why I've done this in black and white. If you're making a brush, you really want to start off with a black background and white paint or pen, whatever, because this makes making your brushes supremely easy. You also need to make sure you are working on a square, because if you don't, when you make your brush, it distorts the shape. First rule is it needs to be square. Second one, it needs to be black, and your ink needs to be white. Do this and you'll find it so easy to make your brushes. So what I need to do now is go to my wrench tool up on the top left, tap on that, and if I go to the very left button which says add, you can see down the left hand side we have cut, copy, copy canvas. I want copy, and then all I'm going to do is close this down by tapping on the gallery because I've copied it, I don't need it anymore. I've got an A4 page here, so I'm just going to open up an A4 page. Now I'm going to go to my brush tools, and on the top here you have a plus symbol. So you want to choose a category for your new brush, and generally speaking I choose something like spray paints, and then click on the plus. And this is where your brush making comes into its own. Ignore what is on that side at the moment. This will not be relevant until you've altered things. So the first thing I want to do is to go to the third thing down which says shape. Okay, and I want to edit that shape, so tap on edit and import, tap on import, and then go to paste. And lo and behold, our leaf has got in there. And then you can just tap on done. And your shape for your brush is now this. So go up to the path, and this looks really, really weird. Go up to the spacing up here and make the spacing so that you can now see each individual leaf. And you are now able to draw different leaves. Now it doesn't stop there. The next one that you want to think about is whether you might want your leaves different colours. Do you want them all the same colour? If you don't, go to Colour Dynamics, and there are some things that you can play with here which will alter the colour of the leaves as you draw. So I'm going to ignore the first two sections because I'm not messing around with what they call jitter. Okay, this is something we don't need to worry about at the moment. What I want to mess around with is what happens when I press harder with my pencil or lighter, and if I draw with the pencil side. So colour pressure, I want hue to be right the way up there. I want to increase the saturation and the brightness, and maybe I'll put the secondary colour there. Colour tilt, I might do the opposite and put things in a different way, and I might put that one up there. So now I go to my drawing pad, tap on drawing pad, clear it, and all those other marks go away. Tap on it again. Now I'm going to pick a random colour, it doesn't make any difference for you what I'm going to pick, and then I'm just going to demonstrate what happens when you use this pen now. There we go. Isn't this fun? Now you might think, but I need them in different sizes. or I need them to be bigger, or I need them to be smaller, or I want them to change size. And that can be done too. What you want to do is to go down to your properties, and on maximum size you want to whack this right up. This will give you lots of variation in the size that you can draw just by tapping or going a bit harder. You can go much bigger. Okay. Now if we go back to the first one, we go back up to the stroke path. Now you can see I had the spacing set fairly high, but not as high as it can go. So I can alter this. Now I've altered my brush, I can alter this and play around with it. Now if I alter the streamline, that doesn't seem to do an awful lot, but it does alter how the pen actually flows, if you like. Jitter is from side to side or up and down, whatever. And the fall off is where you start off very gradually and then it ends very gradually. And I don't want to mess around with that. So let's go down to the Apple Pencil settings. And this is where you can adjust it for pressure on the size and the opacity, the paint flow, how much bleeding there is, and so on and so forth, all those sorts of things. But yeah, basically you have created a new brush. So if you go to about this brush, you can name it test. Well, I don't want to keep this brush. If I was going to make it properly, I would have taken more care of the actual drawing of it. And just click on done. Of course, I can change the size now in this bar up and down. And this one underneath is the opacity of it. Okay. So now I've got them a bit smaller. If I put it right up to maximum, it's huge. But you can make all sorts of nice things. Now if I've messed around and I don't want that anymore, I can just swipe and clear my layer. Now in the brush settings, there are ways of changing the rotation of the brush as well. One important feature to note, and it's one I'd forgotten about, is the opacity of your design. Now if you go to the Apple Pencil, this is where you're going to control how much effect pressure and stuff has on your design. So on here you have pressure, you have size, but you have opacity next down. Now you might think that if you put it up to full opacity, then it would always give you completely opaque images, but that's not the way that it works. This means that the pencil has the maximum effect on the opacity. So the lighter you touch, the lighter it is, and the harder you touch, the harder the image. So if you want them all to be completely opaque, slide that right the way down to none. If you want to rotate your design, your leaf, you want it to move around when you're brushing, then you go into the shape section and you have scatter and you have rotation. Okay, so you have two of those, and you can increase the count if you want to. That will end up with layers of leaves going over layers of leaves, and you can have things set to randomized, azimuth, and with azimuth it follows the way that you're painting or brushing. Okay, so if I go down, they go in one way, go up, they go another way, side to side, like so. Now for those of you who say, but I can't draw, I can't do anything which is worthwhile, I will dispute that, because Procreate has a very good function which will make even the most untalented artist capable of doing some nice patterns and things to cut out stencils and that sort of stuff. Let me go to the gallery again. This will keep my picture for me, okay? And I'm going to open up my brush base. Now I'm going to go to my layer and I'm going to get rid of that leaf. Boom, gone. Now I'm going to go to my wrench and I'm going to go to Canvas. Here we go. And what I'm going to do is to check the drawing guide on, like that. Now you can see, or possibly you can see, I don't know if you can actually see it, I have some guidelines here. So I have a cross in 2 different directions. And if you tap on Edit Drawing Guide, you have different options that you can use. Now the one that I like to use for doing patterns for stencils and things like that is the symmetry one. Now I'm going to put my lines up so they're much thicker so that you might be able to see them better. And if I slide this pen across the top of the screen here, it changes the colour of the lines. Now I'm going to put it right over there so hopefully you can actually see it on camera. When you've got the lines as you want them, and then you tap on Done. And now when you draw, change this back to white. Right. You will get your symmetry. Oops, I got the wrong thing selected. I want to go back to a normal pen. So where are we? Inking, and my smooth pen. Yeah, that will do fine. Okay. So when I draw one petal, I now have a complete flower. Now if you can't draw that much, then you probably shouldn't bother with Procreate. But I'm guessing pretty much everybody can just draw a kind of loop with a narrow end and a fat end. So we can draw something else, just a funny shape. There we are. And I'm going to draw another funny shape, but round in the other direction. Now, you could say, but that's not really what I want as a stencil. I want lots of these all over my page. Well, I've just shown you how to do all of those over a page. You make it into a brush. But before you do that, you might want to fill in the colours. Now, because you have this rotational symmetry on, you only even have to drag it 3 times. This couldn't get much easier. What I want to do is switch off the assisted drawing, which is the bit that does the rotation. So tap on that and switch that off. Then go to Copy, go to my brushes, click on the plus, go to the shape, go to Edit, go to Import and Paste, and click on Done. And I've brought it in to make a brush from it. So I can go to the stroke path and I can increase the spacing. There we go, see the individual shapes. I want to change the maximum size that it can go, so make it a lot bigger. That gives me a lot of variation in the size that I can create. But I think that's probably about all I want to actually do. So I'm going to erase that layer just so I can see what I've got. And there we are. So that's it for the first session. I think I've given you plenty of food for thought. And I'll see you again soon. Take care now.